The rain hammered downtown Chicago as Zara Williams knelt beside a motionless figure in an expensive suit. Her delivery uniform was already soaked through, her hands shaking as she pressed two fingers against the stranger's neck. No pulse. Her phone screen glowed. 11:10 p.m. 5 minutes until the delivery company's deadline. 5 minutes before she'd lose $500 she didn't have. But this man was dying. "Sir, can you hear me?" She tilted his head back, checked his airway. Nothing. She had a choice: save a stranger and lose everything, or walk away and let him die. What Zara didn't know was that this stranger's identity would change her family's life forever. He didn't know that the person saving him was about to lose everything she'd worked for. Tomorrow, when he walked into her workplace, a twist 15 years in the making would finally reveal itself. But first, she had to choose. Earlier that morning, Zara's alarm pierced the silence at 5 a.m. She rolled over in the cramped studio apartment she shared with her 16-year-old brother Malik, reaching across to silence the phone before it woke him. The first thing she did every morning was touch the faded photograph on her nightstand. Her mother, Elena Williams, stood proudly in a white chef's uniform, holding baby Zara in her arms. The image was worn from years of handling. "Morning, Mama," Zara whispered, like she had every day for the past 10 years. "Still trying to make you proud." She padded quietly to their tiny kitchen, opening the refrigerator to reveal nearly empty shelves, a carton of milk with 2 days left, half a loaf of bread, some leftover rice from yesterday's dinner. She counted the crumpled bills in the coffee tin on the counter. $89 for the entire month. Her stomach twisted, but not from hunger. The eviction notice taped to their door fluttered as she opened it to grab the newspaper. 30 days to pay $2,400 in back rent, or they'd be homeless. Zara touched the silver necklace at her throat, a tiny whisk pendant that had belonged to her mother. Elena had worn it every day while working as a private chef, before everything changed. Before she died when Zara was just 14, leaving her to raise Malik alone. "Morning, Zed." Malik shuffled into the kitchen already dressed in his one good shirt, a white button-down he'd been saving for today's college scholarship interview. "Are you ready for the big day?" Zara forced a smile, starting the coffee maker. The interview could change everything. Full ride to Northwestern, a future Malik deserved. "Nervous as hell," he admitted, straightening his collar. "You're still driving me at 7, right? I know it's early, but of course." Zara's heart sank. Her car had broken down 3 days ago. They'd have to take the early bus, which meant leaving by 6:30. She worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. Morning shifts at Maya's Corner Cafe in the financial district, where she'd been for 2 years. Evenings delivering food through multiple apps, racing around the city on her delivery bike until nearly midnight. The cafe job barely covered utilities. The delivery work was supposed to handle rent, but the company had strict policies. Return equipment late 3 times and you're fired. She'd already been late twice this month. "Zara?" Malik was studying her face. "You okay? You look worried." She busied herself making breakfast from their meager supplies. "Just thinking about your interview. What are you going to tell them about your goals?" As Malik talked about his dreams of studying business, Zara cooked using one of their mother's recipes. Elena had learned it working for a wealthy family back when she thought cooking might lead somewhere bigger. "Mama always said this recipe came from a family she cooked for," Zara told Malik, stirring the eggs with practiced ease. "They were so grateful for everything she did. She said they even wanted to adopt us both." Malik looked up from his notes. "What happened to them?" "She never told me the whole story." Zara plated the food carefully, the way Elena had taught her. "Said some stories were meant to unfold in their own time." The memory made her chest tight. Elena had been brilliant in the kitchen, creating meals that made people weep with joy. But she'd also been proud. Too proud, maybe. She'd walked away from that family for reasons she never fully explained, taking jobs in regular restaurants until the cancer took her. "I wish I could have met her," Malik said quietly. "Really met her, you know, remembering her. She would have loved seeing you get this scholarship." Zara touched her necklace again. "She always said education was the one thing nobody could take away from you." The morning routine continued, Zara packing Malik's interview materials, double-checking his bus fare, reminding him about the questions they'd practiced. But her mind kept drifting to the growing pile of bills on their kitchen table. The delivery company had called twice this week about her late equipment returns. One more strike and she'd lose the evening job entirely. Without it, they couldn't make rent even if she worked every possible hour at the cafe. Maya, the cafe owner, had been understanding about Zara's exhaustion lately, but even Maya's patience had limits. Zara couldn't afford to lose that job, too. "You sure you're okay?" Malik asked as they prepared to leave. "You've been stressed all week." Zara forced another smile. "Just want everything to go perfect for your interview." She hadn't told him about the eviction notice, hadn't mentioned that the delivery company was threatening termination. Malik had enough pressure without knowing their entire future balanced on a knife's edge. As they walked to the bus stop, Zara touched her mother's necklace one more time. Elena had worn it every day, believing it brought good luck to her cooking. Today, Zara needed all the luck she could get. "You know what Mama used to say?" she told Malik as their bus approached. "She said you never know when you'll need to save someone who matters." Neither of them knew that tonight, those words would be put to the ultimate test. 10:45 p.m. Zara's legs burned as she pedaled through the financial district, her delivery bag bouncing against her back. The autumn air had turned sharp, threatening rain. She'd been working since 6 a.m., 12 hours at Maya's cafe, then 5 hours of deliveries. Her phone showed 17 completed orders, enough to cover groceries for the week if she was lucky. But luck wasn't on her side tonight. Her delivery bike chain snapped 2 blocks from the drop-off location, sending her skidding to a stop on the wet pavement. She checked her phone. 10:47 p.m. 28 minutes to return the insulated delivery bags to the warehouse or face a $500 penalty. $500 she absolutely did not have. The last bus home left at 11:20 p.m. If she missed it, she'd have to walk 8 kilometers in what looked like an incoming storm. And tomorrow morning, she had to wake Malik at 6:30 for his scholarship interview, the interview that could change both their lives. Zara shouldered her delivery bag and started pushing the broken bike toward the warehouse. The wheels squeaked against the asphalt as the first raindrops began to fall. That's when she saw him. A figure lay crumpled near the service entrance of an old office building, half hidden by construction barriers. Expensive charcoal suit, Italian leather shoes, but motionless in the growing puddle beneath him. 10:58 p.m., 17 minutes to return equipment. Zara's phone buzzed with a text from the delivery company. Final reminder, equipment return deadline 11:15 p.m. sharp, no exceptions. She looked at the unconscious man, then at her phone, then back at the man. His chest barely rose and fell. In the dim streetlight, she could see his lips had a bluish tint. Someone was dying, right here, right now. "Hey!" she called out, hoping someone else would appear. A security guard, a late-night worker, anyone. The street remained empty except for the distant hum of traffic. Zara approached carefully. The man appeared to be in his 50s, graying temples, wedding ring catching the light. His briefcase had spilled open, papers scattered in the rain. She knelt beside him, her delivery uniform soaking through instantly. "Sir, can you hear me?" No response. She pressed 2 fingers against his neck, searching for a pulse. There, weak and irregular, but present. "Sir, I'm going to help you, okay?" As she tilted his head back to check his airway, something strange happened. The man's lips moved, forming silent words. "Elena, the soup, so warm." Zara's blood went cold. Elena. That was her mother's name. But there was no time to process the coincidence. His breathing was becoming more labored and his skin felt clammy despite the cool night. Her phone showed 11:02 p.m., 13 minutes. The moral arithmetic was brutal. If she stayed to help this stranger, she'd lose $500 they desperately needed for rent. She'd miss the last bus home and arrive exhausted for Malik's interview. She might even lose her delivery job entirely, but if she left, this man might die. Zara pulled out her phone with shaking fingers, her battery showing 8%. She dialed 911. 911? What's your emergency? "I found an unconscious man downtown. He's breathing but barely responsive." corner of LaSalle and Madison, near the old Meridian building. Ambulance is dispatched. Stay on the line. Are you trained in CPR? Yes. Elena had insisted both her children learn, back when Zara was working as a lifeguard during high school. Check if his airway is clear and begin chest compressions if needed. Zara assessed quickly. His airway seemed clear, but his pulse was getting weaker. She positioned her hands on his chest and began compressions, counting under her breath. 11:07 p.m. 8 minutes. Come on, she whispered between compressions. Stay with me. The rain was falling harder now, soaking through her jacket. She shrugged it off and draped it over the man's torso, using her body to shield him from the worst of the downpour. As she worked, her phone buzzed repeatedly. Messages from the delivery company. Reminders about the deadline. Threats about the penalty fee. 11:12 p.m., 3 minutes. She could still make it. Drop everything and run to the warehouse. Save her job, save the money. Get home in time for Malik's interview. But then she looked at the man's face again. Someone's husband, someone's father. And those words he'd whispered. Elena. Her mother's name. I'm sorry, Malik, she said quietly, continuing the chest compressions. I'm so sorry about your interview. The ambulance sirens grew louder in the distance. 11:15 p.m. came and went. Zara Williams had made her choice. The sirens grew louder as Zara continued chest compressions, her arms already aching from the repetitive motion. Rain pelted her face, mixing with tears she didn't realize she was crying. 30. She counted aloud, then tilted the man's head back for rescue breaths. His skin was cold against her lips, but she felt the faint exhale that meant his lungs were still working. Back to compressions. 1, 2, 3. 2. Her phone screen lit up with another notification. Delivery equipment overdue. $500 penalty applied to your account. The message stung, but Zara didn't stop. Couldn't stop. This man's life was worth more than money, even money she desperately needed. Come on, sir. Stay with me. She pressed harder, remembering her mother's voice from years ago. Zara, mija, you never know when you'll need to save someone who matters. Learn this well. The man stirred slightly, his eyelids fluttering. Zara felt a surge of hope, but his breathing remained shallow and irregular. Without thinking, she began humming, a soft lullaby her mother used to sing while cooking. Elena would hum this tune while stirring soup, while kneading bread, while teaching Zara the recipes that connected them to something larger than their small apartment. Something remarkable happened. The man's breathing seemed to steady as she hummed. His face, which had been twisted in unconscious pain, relaxed slightly. That's it, Zara whispered. You recognize that, don't you? Somehow you know that song. The ambulance rounded the corner, red and blue lights painting the wet street in urgent colors. Zara had been performing CPR for 18 minutes straight, her arms screaming in protest, but she didn't stop until the paramedics took over. Ma'am, step back, please. We've got him. 2 EMTs quickly assessed the situation, while a third rolled a stretcher closer. Zara backed away, suddenly shivering as the adrenaline wore off and the cold rain penetrated her soaked uniform. Good work, the lead paramedic called over his shoulder. How long were you doing compressions? Since 11:02, Zara replied, checking her phone. The screen showed 11:23 p.m., 21 minutes. Jesus, you probably saved his life. Most people give up after 5. As they loaded the man onto the stretcher, his hand suddenly shot out, grasping weakly at Zara's necklace. His eyes opened for just a moment, confused, unfocused, but somehow desperate. Elena's whisk, he whispered, his voice barely audible over the rain. She always wore Elena's whisk. Zara's heart stopped. She looked down at her mother's necklace, the tiny silver whisk pendant catching the ambulance lights. How do you know about my mother's necklace? She asked, leaning closer. But the man's eyes had closed again, and the paramedics were already moving toward the ambulance. Elena saved me, when I was 7. His words faded as the oxygen mask covered his face. Wait! Zara called out, following the stretcher. What did you say about Elena, about my mother? The EMT held up a hand. Ma'am, we need to get him to the hospital now. His vital signs are still unstable. Can I come with you? I need to know what he meant about... Are you family? No, but... Then I'm sorry. Hospital policy. The ambulance doors slammed shut and Zara was left standing alone in the rain, her mind reeling. How could this stranger know about her mother's necklace? How could he know Elena's name? Her phone buzzed. Another message from the delivery company. Immediate response required. Report to warehouse tomorrow 9 a.m. for account review. 11:25 p.m. The last bus had already left. Zara looked around the empty street, water dripping from her hair, her uniform clinging to her shivering body. 8 kilometers to home. In her current state, it would take nearly 2 hours. She started walking. Each step was agony. Her legs, already exhausted from 12 hours of work, protested against the additional miles. Her phone died somewhere around the 3rd kilometer, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the stranger's mysterious words. Elena's whisk. How could he possibly know? The rain had soaked through every layer of clothing by the time she reached her neighborhood. Her teeth were chattering uncontrollably, and she could feel the beginning of a fever building behind her eyes. She climbed the 3 flights to their apartment at 1:47 a.m., fumbling with keys that felt foreign in her numb fingers. Inside, Malik was asleep at the kitchen table, his interview notes spread around him, his head pillowed on his arms. Zara's heart broke a little more. He'd waited up for her, probably worried when she didn't answer her phone. Now she'd have to wake him in less than 5 hours for the most important interview of his young life. She set 6 different alarms on her phone, though she wasn't sure she'd hear them through what felt like an approaching wall of exhaustion and illness. Her body was already betraying her, muscles aching, head pounding, throat scratchy from the cold rain. In the bathroom mirror, she looked like a ghost, pale, hollow-eyed, shivering despite being inside. She changed into dry clothes and crawled into bed, still wearing her mother's necklace. As she drifted toward unconsciousness, the stranger's words echoed in her mind. Elena saved me when I was 7. What had her mother never told her? What story was meant to unfold in its own time? Outside her window, somewhere across the city, Richard Hartwell was conscious in a hospital bed, asking the night nurse about the young woman with Elena's necklace and whether anyone had gotten her contact information. The nurse told him she was sorry, but they had no record of his rescuer beyond a first name, Zara. Richard closed his eyes, tears of gratitude mixing with 15 years of regret. After all this time searching, Elena's daughter had found him, and just like her mother, she had refused to let him die. Tomorrow, he will find her. Tomorrow, he would finally be able to fulfill the promise he'd made to a 7-year-old boy in a hospital bed and to Elena Williams' memory. But tonight, Zara Williams fell asleep not knowing that her world was about to change forever, that her mother's greatest sacrifice was about to bear fruit in ways Elena could never have imagined. She only knew that she'd made the right choice, even if it cost her everything. 6 a.m. came like a slap. Zara's phone alarms blared, but her body refused to respond. Fever burned behind her eyes and every muscle ached from the previous night's ordeal. Zara! Malik's voice seemed distant. Zara, wake up! My interview is in an hour. She forced her eyes open to see her brother fully dressed, panic written across his face. What time is it? She croaked. 7:30! We were supposed to leave an hour ago! The crushing realization hit her. In her fevered state, she'd slept through every alarm. Malik's scholarship interview, the opportunity that could change his future, had already started. Oh, God, Malik, I'm so sorry. She tried to sit up, but the room spun. I got caught in the rain last night, and It's okay, he said quietly, but devastation filled his eyes. They said I could try to reschedule, but there were only 5 spots available. Zara felt sick for reasons beyond her fever. In choosing to save a stranger, she'd potentially destroyed her brother's dreams. 2 hours later, she stumbled into Maya's corner cafe, looking terrible. Her uniform was wrinkled, her hair barely contained, and she moved like every step hurt. Dios mío, Zara! Maya looked up from the espresso machine. You look awful. What happened? I'm sorry I'm late. I know this is the 3rd time this month. Mija, sit down before you fall down. Maya guided her to a chair. You're burning up. I can't afford to miss work. I already lost my delivery job last night. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Miss Williams, this is Sarah Lane from Cook County Hospital. I'm calling about the gentleman you helped last night. Zara's pulse quickened. Is he okay? He's fully recovered, thanks to you. Mr. Hartwell wanted me to express his gratitude properly. Maya's eyebrows shot up. Hartwell? Dios mío, that's the family your mother worked for. 30 minutes later, Sarah Lane entered carrying a manila envelope. She was professional-looking with kind eyes. You must be Zara Williams. Mr. Hartwell is very eager to thank you. She placed the envelope on the table. Inside were $200 bills and a handwritten note. For Elena's daughter, who inherited her mother's heart. This is not payment for last night. This is gratitude for 15 years of searching. R.H. Zara stared at the money. $2,000. Enough to pay the delivery penalty, catch up on rent, help Malik reapply for scholarships. But something about the note stopped her cold. Elena's daughter. 15 years of searching. How does he know about my mother? I think that's something you'll need to discuss with Mr. Hartwell directly, Sarah replied. He's been looking for Elena Williams and her daughter for a very long time. Maya leaned forward. Zara, your mother worked for the Hartwell family when you were a baby. She never told you why she left. Zara's head spun from fever and confusion. The mysterious connection to her mother, the stranger's words about Elena, and now this. It was overwhelming. She looked at the money again. They needed it desperately. Malik's future hung in the balance. Their rent was overdue. But something deep inside, some echo of Elena's voice, told her this wasn't right. I can't take this, she said quietly, pushing the envelope back. Zara, Maya gasped. Think about what you're saying. I didn't save him for money. I saved him because it was right, just like my mother taught me. Sarah smiled knowingly. Mr. Hartwell said you might react this way. He asked me to give you this. She placed a business card on the table. His private number. He said some conversations are 15 years overdue. The card read, Richard Hartwell, CEO, Hartwell Industries. As Sarah left, Maya shook her head. Your mother's pride, Mija. It's both your greatest strength and weakness. But Zara stared at the business card, pieces of a puzzle slowly clicking into place. Tomorrow, everything will change. During the lunch lull, Maya poured coffee and sat across from Zara, who was nursing her third cup of tea. Mija, there are things about your mother's time with the Hartwells that I never told you, Maya began carefully. Zara looked up from Richard's business card. What kind of things? Elena worked for them for almost 2 years when you were a baby. Beautiful house in Lincoln Park, more money than you could imagine. But it wasn't just a job. She loved that family, especially the little boy. Little boy? Richard, maybe 7 or 8 years old, sweet child but sickly, had allergies to everything, spent half his time in hospitals. Maya's eyes grew distant. Your mother had a gift with him. He trusted her completely. Zara felt something stir. What happened? One day, Elena came home early, crying like I'd never seen. She was carrying you and a box of her things, said she could never go back. Why? Maya hesitated. She wouldn't tell me everything, but there was some emergency with the boy. Elena had to save his life. The family was so grateful they wanted to give her everything, house, car, money, even adopt both of you. Zara's hand went to her necklace. But she said no. She said no, packed up that same day and never looked back. Too proud, that woman. Maya shook her head. Sometimes I wonder if she made the right choice. The pieces were forming a picture, still blurry around the edges. Maya, do you think the man I saved... The cafe door chimed. A businessman entered, looking around before approaching their table. Excuse me? Is one of you Zara Williams? That's me, Zara said cautiously. I'm from Mr. Hartwell's office. He asked me to give you this. The man handed her a wrapped package. He said it belonged to your mother. Before Zara could ask questions, he was gone, leaving her holding brown paper wrapping. Inside was an ornate wooden recipe box with EW carved into the lid. Dios mío, Maya whispered. Your mother's recipe box. She left it at their house when she quit. I remember her crying about it for weeks. Zara opened it with trembling fingers. Dozens of recipe cards in her mother's handwriting, but on top was a sealed envelope. For my daughter, when she's old enough to understand that kindness creates destiny. Her phone rang. Richard's number. Miss Williams, this is Richard Hartwell. I believe we have a great deal to discuss about your mother. Would you allow me to come to your cafe tomorrow morning? Zara's heart pounded. Yes, I think we do need to talk. 8 o'clock? I'll bring everything. Photos, letters, the full story she never told you. As she hung up, Zara stared at the unopened envelope. Tomorrow, 15 years of mystery will finally be revealed. Zara arrived at Maya's corner cafe an hour before opening, her hands still shaking from the fever that had kept her awake most of the night. She'd spent hours staring at her mother's unopened letter, afraid to break the seal that had waited 15 years to be broken. She wore her mother's necklace outside her shirt today, the silver whisk catching the morning light streaming through the cafe windows. Beside the espresso machine, she placed the only photograph she had of Elena, her mother in chef's whites, smiling and holding baby Zara. At exactly 8 o'clock, a black sedan pulled up outside. Through the window, Zara watched a distinguished man in his 50s emerge, carrying a leather portfolio and the same wooden recipe box from yesterday. The door chimed as he entered, and Zara's breath caught in her throat. It was definitely the man from the street, healthy now, wearing an impeccable navy suit, but unmistakably the same person she'd saved. "You," she whispered, her coffee cup trembling in her hands. "Zara Williams." His voice was warm, emotional. "You have her eyes and her hands." Elena had the most graceful hands when she cooked. They stood there for a moment, both fighting back tears before they'd even begun to speak. "How did you find me?" Zara asked as he approached the counter. "I asked the hospital for your information, but they couldn't give it to me, so I hired someone to find the woman who saved my life." He gestured around the cafe. "All I knew was your first name and that you'd mentioned working at a coffee shop in the financial district." Maya emerged from the back room, took one look at Richard Hartwell, and immediately understood. "Mijo, you grew up," she said softly. Richard smiled. "Hello, Maya. You haven't changed a bit." "You two know each other?" Zara asked, confused. "Maya used to visit your mother sometimes when Elena worked for our family," Richard explained. "Maya, your employee saved my life 2 nights ago." "I know, mijo. And you've been looking for them ever since Elena left, haven't you?" Richard nodded, then turned to Zara. "Could we sit? I have 15 years of explanation to give you." They settled at a corner table, and Richard opened his leather portfolio. The first thing he pulled out was a photograph that made Zara gasp. 7-year-old Richard in a hospital bed, with young Elena sitting beside him, holding his hand. Elena was wearing the exact same necklace Zara wore now. "That's my necklace," Zara whispered. "She's wearing my necklace." "She never took it off during the 2 years she worked for us," Richard said gently. "She said it reminded her that cooking was about love, not just technique." He pulled out more photos. Elena in the Hartwell kitchen, teaching young Richard to crack eggs. Elena laughed as Richard, covered in flour, tried to help make bread. Elena read to him when he was sick. "Your mother wasn't just our chef, Zara. She was family. She took care of me when my parents were traveling for business, which was often. She was the most constant, loving presence in my childhood." Zara studied the photos, seeing a side of her mother she'd never known existed. Elena looked happy in these pictures, fulfilled in a way Zara rarely remembered. "What happened?" Zara asked. "Why did she leave?" Richard's expression grew serious. "I had a severe peanut allergy that we didn't fully understand at the time. One afternoon I was 7 years old, playing in the pantry while Elena prepared dinner. I found a tin of cookies that a neighbor had brought over. Homemade almond cookies." Zara's hand went to her throat. "I ate 3 of them before Elena found me. By then I was already having trouble breathing. Within minutes, I was unconscious on the kitchen floor." He pulled out a medical report from the portfolio. "Elena found me and immediately called 911. Then she performed CPR for 15 minutes until the paramedics arrived. The doctor said without her quick action, I would have died." "Just like the other night," Zara said quietly. "Just like the other night," Richard confirmed. "My parents were in Europe when it happened. They flew back immediately, and when they saw what Elena had done, how she'd saved their only child, they wanted to give her everything." He showed Zara legal documents, yellowed with age, adoption papers for both Elena and baby Zara, deed to a house in Lincoln Park, trust fund documents with Zara's name on them. "They wanted to make us family, legally. They loved Elena and they loved you. You were just a baby, but you were always part of the household when Elena worked. My parents saw how much Elena loved you, how hard she worked to give you a better life." Zara felt tears burning her eyes. but she said no. Richard nodded, pulling out a handwritten letter. This is what Elena wrote to my parents the day she left. Zara read her mother's careful script. I am grateful beyond words for your kindness, but I cannot accept charity, even from people I love. Zara must grow up knowing her own strength, earning her own way. If I take your money now, she'll never learn that she's capable of anything. Richard is a good boy with a kind heart. Someday, he'll change the world. I pray Zara grows up with the same kindness, but also the chance to prove herself. She was protecting me, Zara whispered. She was protecting you, Richard agreed, but I never forgot her. When I turned 18, I hired investigators to find you both. Every year since, I've renewed the search. For 15 years? For 15 years. I found out Elena had passed away 5 years ago. His voice broke slightly. I was devastated that I was too late to thank her personally. Richard reached across the table and took Zara's hands. But then 2 nights ago, a miracle happened. Elena's daughter saved my life just like her mother had. And when you refused the money, when you made yourself sick helping a stranger, I knew Elena's spirit lived on in you. Zara was crying now, understanding flooding through her. You've been looking for us all this time. And now I can finally fulfill the promise I made to a 7-year-old boy in a hospital bed, and to your mother's memory. He opened the recipe box and pulled out an envelope she hadn't seen before. Elena left this for you, Zara. She said to give it to you when you are old enough to understand that kindness creates destiny. As Zara took the letter with shaking hands, Richard smiled. Now I want to honor both Elena's memory and your character by giving you something she was too proud to accept, but something you've more than earned. With trembling fingers, Zara opened her mother's letter. Elena's familiar handwriting blurred through her tears as she read. My darling daughter, if you're reading this, then the Hartwell boy found you, just as I always hoped he would. Don't be too proud like your mother was. Accept what he offers, not as charity, but as completion of a circle. You are worthy of every opportunity, Mija. Use them to help others the way you've always helped me. Love, Mama. Richard waited patiently as Zara composed herself, then pulled out a thick folder of documents. Zara, I want to create the Elena Williams Foundation for Community Culinary Arts, with you as the executive director and primary beneficiary. A foundation in my mother's name? Your mother believed cooking was about feeding souls, not just bodies. I want to honor that vision. Richard spread the papers across the table. Full scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America. They already have a spot reserved for you in their next incoming class. Zara stared at the acceptance letter with her name on it. But I never applied. I've been keeping applications active for years, hoping we'd find you. But this isn't charity, Zara. This is inheritance. This is what your mother earned 15 years ago when she saved my life. He pulled out architectural drawings. I want you to develop Elena's Kitchens, a chain of community restaurants serving healthy, affordable food in neighborhoods that need it most, starting right here. The drawings showed Maya's Corner Cafe transformed into something beautiful. Larger kitchen, community seating, a teaching space for cooking classes. Maya would become our first franchise partner with full equity ownership, Richard continued. She's already agreed, contingent on your participation. You already talked to Maya? I talked to Maya this morning. She's been waiting 15 years for this conversation, too. Richard pulled out financial documents. While you're in culinary school, you'll receive $100,000 annually for living expenses and to begin developing the Elena's Kitchen concept. After graduation, $150,000 as executive chef director, plus 40% ownership in the foundation. Zara's head was spinning. Richard, this is too much. I can't possibly... Your brother Malik's college education will be fully funded, Richard interrupted gently. Any school he chooses, plus a summer internship program at Hartwell Industries if he's interested in business. The mention of Malik hit her like a physical blow. He missed his scholarship interview because of me, because I chose to save you instead of getting home on time. I know, and I'm going to personally call Northwestern's admissions office this afternoon. When they hear the full story of why he missed that interview, I guarantee you they'll not only reschedule, they'll be honored to have him. Richard leaned forward, his expression earnest. Zara, your rent debt. The delivery company penalty, everything. It's all handled as of this morning. You'll never face eviction again. I don't understand why you're doing all this. Richard pulled out a crayon drawing carefully preserved behind glass. Stick figures of a woman and a little boy with childish handwriting that read, "I will help people like Elena helped me." I drew this in the hospital when I was 7 years old. I promised myself that someday I'd find a way to help people the way your mother helped me. Every charitable foundation I've started, every scholarship I've funded, every community program Hartwell Industries supports, it all started with Elena's example. He showed her newspaper clippings spanning decades. Richard's face in business journals, but the articles focused on his philanthropic work. Homeless shelters, food banks, educational programs. Elena didn't just save my life that day. She shaped who I became. She showed me that real power comes from helping others, not accumulating wealth. Zara picked up one of the articles. Hartwell Industries named Chicago's most generous corporate citizen. I've spent my entire adult life trying to live up to your mother's example, and now I can finally complete the circle by helping her daughter achieve what Elena always dreamed of. Richard pulled out the final document, architectural plans for a larger facility. The first full Elena's Kitchen will be built in your old neighborhood, exactly where your mother always talked about opening a restaurant someday. You'll design the menu using her recipes from this box, hire from the community, and create the kind of place Elena envisioned. "A place that feeds souls," Zara whispered, remembering her mother's words. "Every Elena's Kitchen will offer job training programs, cooking classes for families, and affordable meals for anyone who needs them. You won't just be running restaurants, Zara. You'll be changing communities." The magnitude of it was overwhelming. "Richard, I'm a delivery girl who works at a coffee shop. I don't know anything about running a foundation or—" "You're Elena Williams' daughter," Richard said firmly. "You have her heart, her instincts, and her courage. 2 nights ago, you proved that by choosing to save a stranger even when it cost you everything." He reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. "This isn't about me repaying you for the other night. This is about fulfilling a promise I made to a 7-year-old boy who owed his life to your mother. This is about honoring Elena's memory by giving you the opportunities she was too proud to take." Zara looked around the cafe, at Maya watching hopefully from behind the counter, at the photos of her mother scattered across the table, at the future spread out in documents and dreams. "My mother really would have wanted this?" she asked quietly. Richard smiled, his eyes bright with tears. "Read her letter again. She knew this day would come, Zara. She prepared you for it." Zara looked down at Elena's final words. "Accept what he offers, not as charity but as completion of a circle." Taking a deep breath, she looked up at Richard. "I accept, not for me, but for every person my mother would have fed if she'd had the chance." "Welcome to the Elena Williams Foundation," Richard said, standing to shake her hand. "Your mother would be so proud." 6 months later, Zara Williams stood in the pristine kitchen of the Culinary Institute of America, her chef's whites bearing the embroidered logo Elena's Kitchen over her heart. She was demonstrating knife techniques to her advanced cooking class, but her movements carried something beyond textbook precision. They held the soul of every recipe her mother had taught her. "Remember," she told her classmates as she julienned vegetables with practiced ease, "cooking isn't just about feeding bodies, it's about nourishing communities." Her instructor, Chef Marcus, watched approvingly. In all his years of teaching, he'd rarely seen a student with such natural leadership and vision. Zara wasn't just learning to cook, she was learning to change the world, one meal at a time. Meanwhile, 200 miles away in Chicago, construction crews were putting finishing touches on the first Elena's Kitchen. The transformed building that had once housed Maya's Corner Cafe now gleamed with industrial-grade equipment, community seating for 80 people, and a teaching kitchen where families could learn to cook together. Maya supervised the installation of the final piece, a bronze plaque by the entrance that read, "Elena Williams believed that food prepared with love could heal hearts and build communities. This kitchen is her legacy." Richard visited the construction site every week, sometimes bringing his own children to see what was being built. "This is what happens when one person's kindness plants seeds for the future," he told them. The hiring fair for Elena's kitchen drew a line that wrapped around 2 city blocks. Zara had insisted on a hiring philosophy that prioritized second chances: formerly incarcerated individuals, single mothers returning to work, immigrants seeking their first opportunity in America. Among the new hires was Carmen Rodriguez, a single mother of 3 who had been surviving on minimum wage and food stamps. When Elena's kitchen offered her a full-time position with benefits, health insurance, and on-site childcare, she cried in the interview. "I never thought someone would take a chance on me," Carmen told the local news reporter covering the story. The menu development process brought Zara home every weekend, working alongside Maya to recreate Elena's recipes from the wooden box. They tested each dish dozens of times, adjusting for larger quantities while maintaining the love and care Elena had poured into every meal. The signature dish became Elena's soul stew, a hearty combination of vegetables, beans, and spices that had once fed Zara and Malik during their leanest months. At Elena's kitchen, a full bowl cost just $6, and no one was ever turned away for inability to pay. Malik, now thriving at Northwestern University with his full scholarship, spent his winter break working at the restaurant's construction site. The boy who had once worn his only good shirt to a missed interview now wore Hartwell Industries intern credentials and spoke confidently about business sustainability and community impact. "My sister is building something that will outlast all of us," he told a documentary crew filming the restaurant's development. The soft opening in February drew every local news station in Chicago. The line of customers stretched 3 blocks, but it wasn't just hungry people. It was families who remembered Elena from her neighborhood catering days, former colleagues who had lost touch, and complete strangers drawn by the story of generational kindness. Richard Hartwell, who had insisted on working the opening night as a server, watched with tears in his eyes as 3 generations of families shared Elena's recipes around tables designed for community connection. The success exceeded everyone's expectations. Within the first month, Elena's kitchen was serving over 1,000 meals daily. The job training program had a waiting list of 200 applicants. The evening cooking classes for families were booked solid through the summer. Food Network's Good Eats with Purpose featured Zara in a primetime documentary titled "The Chef Who Inherited Her Calling." The episode followed her from culinary school to the bustling kitchen where she now trained a team of 25 employees, many of whom had never worked in food service before. "This isn't just about the food," Zara explained to the cameras while plating Elena's famous empanadas. "It's about creating opportunities for people who need them most, the way someone once created an opportunity for my family." The Elena Williams Foundation received applications for the second location before the first had been open 2 months. Community leaders from Detroit, Milwaukee, and Cleveland all requested Elena's kitchens for their neighborhoods. By the end of Zara's first year in culinary school, Elena's kitchen had served over 200,000 meals, created 85 permanent jobs, and graduated 150 people from its job training programs. Local food insecurity dropped by 35% in the surrounding neighborhood. But the most meaningful moment came on a quiet Tuesday evening when Carmen Rodriguez, the single mother hired on opening day, was promoted to assistant manager. "Elena Williams saved more lives than she ever knew," Carmen said, accepting her new apron with assistant manager embroidered below the Elena's Kitchen logo. 2 years later, Zara Williams walked through her old neighborhood on a crisp autumn evening, barely recognizable as the exhausted delivery girl who had once struggled to make rent. At 26, she carried herself with quiet confidence, wearing a tailored chef's coat embroidered with Executive Director Elena Williams Foundation. But around her neck, she still wore her mother's silver whisk necklace. The neighborhood had transformed alongside her. Where empty storefronts once lined the streets, new businesses now thrived: a bookstore, a community health clinic, a small market, all drawn by the economic activity generated by Elena's kitchen. As Zara walked past the bronze plaque commemorating her mother, she noticed a young woman sitting on the bench nearby, crying over eviction papers. 2 small children played at her feet. The scene was achingly familiar. Without hesitation, Zara approached. "Excuse me, are you okay?" The woman looked up with tear-stained cheeks. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. We'll move along. No, please don't apologize. I'm Zara, and I run the restaurant here. What's your name?" Isabella, these are my daughters, Sophia and Maria. Are you looking for work, Isabella? Because we have an opening in kitchen management and we provide childcare and housing assistance. Isabella's eyes widened. You'd hire me? I don't have restaurant experience. Neither did most of our best employees when they started. What matters is that you want to work and care about your family. From across the street, Richard Hartwell emerged from the foundation offices, where he'd been reviewing expansion plans. He paused when he saw Zara helping the young mother, a familiar warmth spreading through his chest. This was Elena's true legacy, not just the restaurants, but the way kindness multiplied, creating endless ripples of compassion. You know, Zara told Isabella as they walked toward Elena's kitchen, someone once told me that kindness creates destiny. Let me show you what that means. 6 months later, Isabella would be promoted to shift supervisor. Her daughters would participate in the Elena Williams Youth Culinary Program, learning to cook with love and purpose. But tonight, as Zara helped Isabella fill out a job application over a warm meal, she thought about the circle her mother had begun. How one act of courage could echo through generations, creating opportunities, changing lives, building communities. Elena Williams had saved a 7-year-old boy who grew up to save her daughter, who now saved others in an endless chain of kindness. Richard joined them at the table, watching the next chapter of Elena's legacy unfold. Your mother is smiling somewhere, he told Zara quietly. Some people live on through their children. Elena Williams lived on through every life her daughter touched. Elena's story reminds us that the kindness we show today can echo through generations in ways we never imagine. One mother's courage to save a child created a legacy that transformed countless lives, proving that no act of love is ever truly forgotten. You never know when the person you help today might become the one who changes your tomorrow, or when your sacrifice might plant seeds that your children will harvest. Think about this. Who in your life showed you kindness when you needed it most? How can you honor their memory by helping someone else? What legacy of compassion will you leave behind? Share your story in the comments. Tell us about a time when someone's kindness changed your path, or when helping a stranger led to something unexpected. If Elena and Zara's journey moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible stories that prove love transcends time. Ring that notification bell because every week we share tales that restore your faith in human goodness. Remember, every act of kindness plants seeds for the next generation to harvest.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.